Okay, what's up? Thank you guys so much for being here once again. This is Louis Azor. He can introduce himself in a minute. Done a lot of cool things throughout the community, and I'm really excited to ask him some questions and hopefully give you guys like some more insight into like what he's all about, what he's done, what he's going to do, and keeping it real today. So let's get started.
Well, thank you everyone for coming out today. I really intend to keep it super real.
Yeah, no, you're good. This is the first time we've done this year, so a little technical difficulties.
Sounds good.
Alright, this might work better.
Test. All right, yeah, a lot better. Thank you everyone for coming out today. My name is Louis Azor. I opened up More Than Vintage about 18 months ago. I intend on keeping this super real, let everyone know super insights. Like I love to just like give you guys the background of like what it takes and what happened past 18 months.
Cool. Thank you so much again for being here. Can you talk to me a little bit about your background, who you are? Like where did you grow up? Are you from Michigan? Where are you from?
So my name's Louis Azor. I'm 21 years old. I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Growing up, I'll just give it back insight about this. Growing up, I was an only child, super strict family. I went to Catholic school my entire life. My daily routine was I'd wake up at 4 a.m., school, church, soccer. That's all I did. Didn't do anything else. Wasn't allowed to have any sleepovers, nothing like that. Like I didn't have like the average like childhood growing up. So that like really shaped like my childhood growing up and how like my resiliency led to that.
And I actually forgot to ask at the beginning of the meeting, by a raise of hands, like who has heard of More Than Vintage or University Weiner before? Can I see some hands? Okay, so like pretty much everyone here. So like this is the dude who's like started it and like he's all about it. So at the end, I forgot what we're gonna say. We're gonna have some time open for questions. So if you have any questions, write them down or think about them. So back to you, Louis. Like what brought you to like Michigan State University? Like what brings you here over like literally anywhere else in the whole entire world?
So I graduated 2020. How many people graduated in 2020? Like you're a senior now. Yeah, so I graduated in 2020, COVID. And if you guys remember, that was like one of the weirdest years ever to existence. Michigan State was my last dead option. Like I grew up thinking, I used to say I'm never going to Michigan State growing up. Like I was dead set, I'm just like going out of state, finding somewhere else, and then COVID happened, and my parents were like, you know, might as well just make the safe decision, go somewhere near home, getting a decent amount of money off for scholarships, just take it and go. So that was how I ended up at Michigan State. Looking back at it now, everything does happen for a reason, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like, were you like studying anything? Like, what did you want to study? Like, what did you want to do with the thought process of going into Michigan State?
Going into Michigan, I actually applied with a civil engineering degree, and then I instantly changed to criminal justice, like instantly the first day. But growing up, I didn't really know what I wanted to. I always knew I wanted to be in that little law office for a while, but obviously that changed just going through college.
Yeah, no, things change all the time. And like, what are you working on like right now? Like, are you even still a student? Like,
so right now I'm actually in the process of getting all my credits transferable right now. I do plan on leaving Michigan State to graduate somewhere else.
Okay, awesome. So a little bit of like a unique route, like compared to like the 4 years in college that a lot of people take. What made you like take the leap of faith and like do something different? So like coming into college, like you kind of knew you want to study, but then you changed. You're just kind of moving around, and then you started this thing called MTV or More Than Vintage. You can probably talk about it more than me.
So I'll just give you kind of like the full background on how this really came to be. So I remember just being a freshman in college, typical stuff. I rushed, did stuff you shouldn't have done, did things you shouldn't do, way too late. Then I was like, you know what, like I'm over it. Like I was just like, there's no way we have to sit here for 4 more years, graduate, and go get a job. Is that just what's gonna happen? So that hit me like really early on, and that just like made me scared. Like it really freaked me out, honestly. So I literally just went through like a little rabbit hole of like trying to figure myself out, like what I actually wanted to do, because I I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. Like I was just a 17-year-old kid, like, wow, like I'm actually lost in the world. So after that experience, I knew I had to do something first, and I was like, just do something. So that led me to start my nonprofit. This is freshman year of college, called Child of the World, and that just basically gave back to homeless people in the Lansing area. We did like little wristbands, food drives, just different stuff. Like I didn't know why I was doing it actually, but I just knew like I had to do something first to actually figure out what I wanted to do. And that was the first thing that I led to, especially just growing up in Philly. I grew up in poverty, so like I saw things like differently. Like so when I came here, it's like my heart automatically just reached out to that different area, and I just knew like, all right, this is just a start. I can figure it out from then. And then this is now sophomore year. I'm 19 years old at this point, and I'm walking by Division Street on my way to Division, and I see the MTV building, just has a for lease sign in the building, and I just like close my eyes for a split second, and just one of those feelings, you get like a rush through your body, just it snaps and zaps you, and I just knew like in that moment, I didn't know what it was gonna be, but I knew like, okay, this is it. Like from that very second, there was something in my brain that just automatically snapped. So from that second, I took a picture of the building, got the picture of the broker, reached out to him, and then he hit me up with the details, and I remember this so vividly. It's like November 15th of my sophomore year, so I'm literally 19. You're 19 years old at this point, right?
Yeah, I'm 19.
Yeah, I was literally your age right now, and I was like, dude, this is literally it. And in the process, I didn't know what it was gonna be. I just knew like I had to get my hands on this space. So I reached out to the broker, and he said, all right, you need a business plan, you need financials, and you need yada, 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 this, all that. And I'm like, okay, I'll reach back out to you. So from November to February, I've just worked on business plans, mini accountants, lawyers, all of that. My first initial plan for More Than Vintage was to open up a coffee shop. I'll get a touchback later on that too. But, so I wrote my business plan, coffee shop, and then it wasn't until January, so 2 months into my actual business plan, that I realized there's no way I could actually open a coffee shop and use Lansing by myself. Just being realistic. I'm 19 years old. I don't know anything about the food industry. So then, like, you know what would be really cool is I realized Michigan State has no place where you can get vintage clothing or like sneakers or just like anything dope besides like the student bookstore, like something fashionable. So I realized if you could create a mix of like fashion and industry and still provide a sense of coffee, of neighboring that fostering community, you would create a new market in the system and then just innovate from there. So that was my game plan going back into it 18 months ago, more so 24 months ago at this point, because in November it'll be exactly 2 years since the idea came into my head. So we signed the lease in February of 2022, and from there on out, like I said, I was 19 years old. How many of you guys are 19 right now? Yeah, I was 19 years old. I thought I was the smartest kid in the world. I genuinely did. And I was like, you know what, I had nothing to lose at this point. Like I reached that point where I was like, you know, I want to do this, and if it fails, it fails. What do I have to lose? I'm 19. If it works, shoot, all right, it works. And then from then on out, we signed these February 22nd. We opened up 67 days later, and those 67 days were 18-hour days. Like, I would wake up 5 in the morning, work, go to class at 10, come back to shop, work, go back to class at 2, work, paint, leave, like up to 2 in the morning, you know, like it'd be Friday night, we'd go out to the bars, come back, paint, go out back to work. It was legit.
Yeah, no,
pictures too, you can kind of see like the before and afters.
No, that's amazing to see like where it started and like where it is now. And we touched on it last meeting, if anyone was here at our first meeting, but did you know about what the Burgess Institute was? Like when you were starting up?
No, at the time I actually didn't. I didn't know anything. I didn't know that was a real thing until actually probably 2 months after we opened. Then Paul Jakes walks into MTV and I'm like, oh yeah, this would have been a lot cooler to know about a few months earlier.
Yeah. So like you were legit just doing this like kind of like by yourself, or like did you like round up, I don't know, like friends, or like who did you go to? Like how did you even start this by yourself?
So one buddy's actually in the backhand corner. Hey Ben. So I remember this is December. This right after break. I come into my house and he's sitting there and we're like, dude, like this place is released. It's I'm really thinking about doing this. Like, you know, like I really want to do this. I think this can actually be something here. And then he says to me, he's like, you know, if you pull that trigger, like I'm there. Like we're doing this. Like I'll help you out. And I was like, you know, that's really all I really needed, because all I really needed is just that push of faith, and that really was like that jump that guided me too. So I kid you not, when it was me and two other buddies, we built that place from the ground up. Like the walls were damaged, like there was no ground in there, like we had to get the ceilings done, like completely everything.
Like at that point, were you thinking about like, how am I gonna manage school in this? Were you already like pretty much saying, yeah, I'm kind of done with school? Like where was your mentality at like during that time?
During the building phase, I was much so like I was very like still in the process, like yeah, school was like very like more so doable still, like just building it, because it was more so really on my structure and flow at the pre-opening stage, you know, like I was still, like school was still like my background, like I was still in school, like now I'm just like, I kind of started a job, you know, and as that go on, like obviously like school kind of like dimmed in my background, honestly, but like my intention is I want to go to law school still, like I love the passion of like school and knowledge, so that's like still very much so.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like, I guess your mindset kind of shifted as you started building, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So like, can you talk about community a little bit, and like how that's been like a central focus for you, and like what that means to you, and like how you kind of either brought or like cultivated that in the East Lansing community?
One thing I like knew with like starting more than Vintage especially is you have to be able to create like a sense of community and like bring people together. And I really started more than Vintage as like a social experiment to see like what happens when you open a business. Like I really did it to like figure out myself and just like who am I, you know? Like I really wanted to prove people wrong. Like I had accountants, lawyers, and everyone like just bashing you're a 19-year-old kid, you're stupid, you're actually dumb, you're gonna fail. And like it was that just like really like led me to like, all right, like I'm so tired and sick of adults telling us like we're actually dumb, because I'm the biggest believer in like I think like everyone in this room is the smartest person there is, and like we are the future. So for me it was like I want to be able to be like, if this 19-year-old kid can do it, shit, anyone else can, you know, like anyone can. So I had that resiliency, like let's round up the troops. Like we are student mates door, like everyone in my staff was no older than 21, like we all built that thing together, you know. So I think that was like the biggest like influence that we had, because people would hear about us and like, oh shoot, like you guys are kids and you guys did this too, like, and it provided that sense of comfort. So that was like the one thing I knew like we needed to do, that's like immediately.
Yeah, and like you talking about like rounding up the troops, like inspiring people, motivating people, like what like inspires and motivates you, like what drives you, like why do you do what you do? Do you have like a reason, or?
It's a good question. Like one, primarily definitely family. Like I was just always raised on like, I've been working since I was a kid. Like I realized we're gonna be working like all our lives anyway. So I've just growing up and like, I've realized I cannot work for someone else. Like I just like love working for myself and just going that route, because it doesn't feel like work at the end of the day. It's just it's your responsibility, it's your livelihood. So it's like, what inspires me the most would definitely be just like the fact that there's people that you don't even know about that look up to you and like that are like relying on you. Like, and I realize that every single day more and more. Like it's not about me at all. It's like about people that we're influencing, like what we can actually do in the community. So that's like definitely my biggest motivator.
Awesome. I don't know if anyone else here like journals. Like I'm a big journaler. My question for you, Louis, is like, how have your like thoughts or like, I guess mentality changed over time, or maybe some things that you've learned? You talked about like starting a business at like 19, just kind of as a social experiment, and then like, this might be a little bit drawn out, but if you have some like key things, maybe try to think back to what you were thinking about like when you first started, and then to now, like what are some things you've learned?
One thing I learned is I'm actually really stupid, one. Two, you have a lot more potential than you really think to get things going. Like, there's just so much that once you just take that first step, everything changes. Like, I don't really remember my life 18 months ago beforehand. I honestly don't remember like who I was. I changed completely. But what I do remember is, I remember being like from 14 to 18, I remember just being like super lost, like super lost. Like I was just angry, upset, like I didn't know what to do. I was angry at the world. Even now, I know like I can't say I'm like actually like I know exactly where I'm going, but I'm much more confident in myself and my abilities. You know, I really took that to actually figure myself out. And that was like the biggest thing I thought was like the biggest like actual impact.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then we talked before actually like about like different phases of your life.
Yeah.
You described as like you lived like maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 6 lives in like the past 18 months. What like would you say to other people who are maybe like in like a new phase of their life right now, or what is your experience with, like phases of life?
So basically, I've kind of broken down my like life just in like the way the store's been operating. Pre-phase from 19 to 20, like I was honestly just super dumb, just opening the company, like not knowing what actually takes to run a business. So the first 6 months, definitely like the most eye-opening. Like just seeing like understanding what it actually takes to run a business. Because now between MTV and Weiner, I have 20 kids on payroll. And I have to wake up every single month accounting for over close to 15 grand in expenses, just expenses. So back then as a 19-year-old kid, I see the store doing well. I'm like, oh wow, this is absolutely insane. Like life's going great. Then you come around October, it starts to slow down. I'm like, okay, like I understand, like business is it's a law. It's like really it's a book. You have to follow the rules, you know. So just like learning different stuff through my phases are just like, okay, like now I can say past year really hasn't meant much to me, because when you look at a company from the actual company standpoint, the first 3 years you're still an infant. The first 3 years you're gonna make the biggest mistakes, you're gonna go through the biggest hurdles, like it's not over yet. Like we have so much more growth to do. So I look at it like that first year I was actually just like, you know, figuring out, making the bad decisions, figuring out like what you actually have to do to make this a legitimate growing company. So, and then now, after the first 6 months, I'll say start of 2023, that's when I really started to hone down like, okay, this is like really something. Because just to be quite frank, just meeting other business owners around the area, they all come to me and say, how do you guys market the way you do? How do you guys entice those kids? Like, we are kids, like we know exactly what we want, we can see it, you know, like, and that's what I realized is we have a lot more potential to do a lot more in like a community per se. So going through that phase, I realized, you know, like there's a lot more potential for growth, especially in a college town in East Lansing. So touching back up on the coffee shop, so we were planning on having this coffee shop for the past 10 months and just getting like super real. Our landlord owns a few properties, and the building next door is called Campus Corner. That place is now becoming a coffee shop, and just whole legalities behind that, like literally just dealing with like lawyers and just trying to figure out like was actually feasible. So basically we got kicked out of having our coffee shop, which honestly in hindsight kind of works out for the best, because honestly hot dogs are a lot better than coffee and a lot easier to run for sure. So I think about it as, you know, like you can't really always have what you really wanted, because in my head, like I was so dead strong on having this coffee shop, opening this coffee shop up. Then I realized it was probably a blessing in disguise that didn't happen, honestly. Especially with how saturated the coffee market is in East Lansing already.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to touch on University Weiner later, but you talked about like other companies like within East Lansing or like within the community, like we're going to like how do you market it? Would you say like being young is like one of your competitive advantages? Like what makes you like a little bit different, or at least the companies that you run?
For sure, definitely, because we know exactly what kids like. That's the problem. Like a lot of other businesses in East Lansing, if they're not chained, you know, they're like ran by a lot of like adults who like have trouble seeing what kids are actually wanting in town, especially with just like what comes and goes in East Lansing. 80% of it's food anyway. So when I realized with brick and mortar any retail is really good in East Lansing. There's not much heavy competition. Because I was shocked that there hasn't been like a vintage store, or like even like a clothing store besides like Pattaya, like before that, you know. So it's really being able to just like see like what we really needed in that town, which I think gave us the advantage, because we're young. We were just looking at like because I literally remember being like, yo, where can I go to get like shoes? Where like I have to drive home? Like there's no way. And then that just like sparked like, yo, this would do super well.
Yeah. And like, what are some like other things you might have like learned either about like business or maybe about the city of East Lansing, going like brick and mortar? There's various different types of businesses. Some people are like online businesses, but being like a physical like brick and mortar business, like that's like a unique challenge. So are there any things you learned about maybe the city, or like how things actually work, like building something physical?
So yeah, it's a process. One thing is one thing we've taken to our advantage is getting to know like a lot of like the city hall representatives, getting to know the mayor, getting to know the city manager, getting to know the planning director, zoning director. That's worked in our favor so much because we've expedited so many processes just being friendly with people. You know, that's what it's really about, like getting to know like the owners of things, like who actually is like planning all this stuff around the city, because that's what helped us grow so much and helped us out so much. Because the fact for Vintage Fest, for example, the mayor reached out to us because he saw like we're Michigan State College kids opened a shop and wanted to close down the city. They didn't have a process to close down the street, so we literally put in the legislation in East Lansing to shut down streets for businesses now that they're working on a program to keep in place forever. So it was like that, just being able to cultivate different like ideas to harbor like innovation within East Lansing too.
No, that's awesome. We're kind of like pioneering some like new efforts. Getting some more specific about like right now, like what does like a day in your life look like right now? And that could vary and probably does vary quite a bit. Do you want to give like maybe one of the more like, I don't know, moderate days? Because obviously there's ups and downs.
Definitely, every single day is super different. Like one day I could be in store all day. One day I could wake up, just watch SpongeBob all day. The next day I could be in Chicago grabbing inventory. The next day I could literally just be in my computer working all day. Average day right now, for me, especially with Weiner, I wake up, just do my stuff, go to my computer, get my coffee done, check in on store, go to Weiner, make sure the inventory's good. But now, like, it's one thing getting company off the ground, and it's different running it now, you know? So when we're getting company off the ground, it's hard labor, 18-hour days. Like, you're not finding me anywhere else. Like, I'm attracted to that place, mentally, physically, like, all day. But when, like, now, second season school's going, it's a lot harder to actually be there physically all the time. You don't have to be. So it's now we're really trying to figure out branding, more so working with like factories overseas, getting stuff shipped in, getting our deliveries on date, figuring out how to cut down costs and stuff. So right now my day-to-day life is a lot more like easy flow now than it was over the summer, than even though it was last year. Like this is definitely the most free my life has been over the past 18 months for sure.
That's very interesting, and like I know the life of like entrepreneurs like varies a lot, depending on what business they're in. But I find a commonality is like each day kind of looks different because there's different challenges. Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about like the pros and cons of your journey? You can be really real here because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So some pros, some cons, whatever you want to share.
So it's kind of hard to just to go off of pros and cons. There's a million pros. There's also a million cons too. You know, just my thing is I don't really see the cons as cons. It's just you have to know what you're getting yourself into. Because for me, it's like I don't care sacrificing my work week, my every single day just to work on growing. So the way I look at it is if I can just grind if I'm 21 years old right now, if I can grind for the next 9 years of my life and be able to set me and my family up and just keep growing, I'll do that. I don't care. No questions asked. I'll work 7 days a week to do that. But it's like, does everyone want to do that? It's not a bad thing. But for me personally, I would love to. So, pros, everything. I mean, you get to say you're doing something a lot of people aren't doing. Like, it's really hard to think of any cons. I don't know if there are any, you know.
Like maybe to someone who wants to be some sort of like entrepreneur, like start a business, let's just say, like, what would you advise them to not go into? What are some of the hard realities that people maybe learn like too late?
There's a lot of them. Because one thing I think people don't understand when starting a business, especially a physical one, that becomes like your baby. Like More Than Vintage is literally my daughter. Like that's how I think about her. Like that's my daughter. Like so you would do anything for your daughter. So when you have like the outside world coming to attack your daughter too, like that makes even sense. Because let's say my daughter has like priorities. My daughter has 10 kids to take count of. We have to have inventory coming in. We have to have all this stuff. So when you have all of that mixed in with like the outside world, it becomes like a lot more hands-on. You don't understand it. Like I haven't really had a day off in the past 18 months. Every single day I've had to account for something, pay something, you know, like do something. Like I haven't had a day where I can't do nothing, you know. So being able to be aware of that and know like you're going to have some of the biggest struggles of your life. Starting MTV was the biggest struggle of my life. hands down. Like, knew how well to expect. You know, I was 19 years old, literally did it from the ground up. So, like, but it was worth it. Like, those sleepless nights were absolutely worth it. Crashing on my buddy's couch for like 2 months was absolutely worth it. Like, I lived like a dog for like 2 months, but shoot, it was absolutely worth it. Especially like reaching out to other business owners now and realizing like MTV the past year did better than Blue Owl did. Just think about that. So it's like we had, and I when I heard that I was 20 years old, and I'm like, there's just, you're telling me like what we just did better than a chain that's been here for a few years, and I'm like, that's just, there's no way. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, like this is like, there's a lot more to reality than what it is. Like you can actually do something here.
Does everyone know what Blue Owl is? It's like a coffee shop. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so like University Weiner, right?
Yeah.
I think I just saw an ad the other day, Weiner Wednesdays. I personally really like that term. Yeah, like I guess you started actually Children of the World, is that right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of kept moving to the More Than Vintage, and like a few other things, but then going to University Weiner. Can you talk about like kind of like the motion, how like when you start one thing, kind of transitions you into another thing? So how you went from More Than Vintage to University Weiner now?
Yeah, it's actually very interesting because University Weiner, like that wasn't really like super out of nowhere. Like, all right, I'm about to come out.
1 second, it might come out.
All right, nah.
Okay, cool.
But so we were actually focusing on opening up another MTV. Is how University Weiner came about. More so, not another MTV, but we're gonna call it Madness. I don't know if you, I brought it up in my recent, like, if you follow me on Instagram, I've been working on it in the past, but we were actually looking at like locations downtown Detroit, maybe even Ann Arbor, to open up another Madness. It'd be same style as MTV, but more so like be able to provide like a lounge, like especially like a more like adult vibe lounge as well. But after going through that, we were like, you know, like we could pull this trigger downtown Detroit and absolutely, you know, go balls deep here. And then my buddy Ben, like we were just hanging around and we were like, you know, like hot dogs, like hot dog. We've been talking about hot dogs since like April.
Yeah, like why hot dogs? Like it could have been hamburgers, it could have literally been anything else. Like,
so you realize, you go on formals, you go down to Nashville, everyone's taking a picture of hot dogs. You see all these girls just posting pictures of hot dogs and saying glizzy this, glizzy that. I'm like, dude. And like, so Ben's like, so Ben's like, dude, people would eat hot dogs up here. So we're like, you know, like, let's just do it. Like, literally, let's do it. Because it's like, we're not gonna actually be able to live our lives downtown Detroit and go balls deep, doing much harder work, a lot harder than what this feasibly would have been. So we met with this is another thing, just being able to know how to do things. Amy Thomas, this is ironic how it works too. Amy Thomas is the one who approved like our coffee shop approval, because we were ready to put our coffee shop in place. She was the lady that helped us go through that and navigate that. And we met with her on a random day. She was like, you know, you guys just go check out that mac and cheese place. Just go see what it's about. Like, I'm pretty sure they're done for. And we just walked in there that same day, and we met with the GM, and the GM was like, yeah, no, we're looking for someone to take it over. And then we got the owner's number, kicked it with the owner for a second, chit-chat. 3 weeks later, we signed the lease, and that's like June 1st. And June 1st to August 19th, I think we had like a 73-day turnaround time to get that place up and off the ground. Because for me and Ben, it's like we were so ready to pull the trigger on an $8,000 month lease downtown Detroit and just actually figure out working on that thing. Like that place would cost us like over $50,000 to build out just to do. And then we literally walked into like our safe haven with like mac and cheese. We're like, dude, like this is literally the perfect hot dog place. Like window, there's not a place where it's like a pickup window outside. The biggest thing for us was like we just need to brand it right in the name. So. Right. It's just like an outdoor setup, which is really cool for right now. But as we saw today, the weather was not ideal. Do you have a plan, like going into the winter? So we actually do. We installed a gate on the inside, so especially when it starts to rain, when it gets cold, you'll be able to go inside of the actual physical building, be able to wait for your food inside. So yeah, we've been working on that. But so once it starts getting cold, we're gonna start actually pushing that like out on media. But for now, we're just gonna keep it outside for the time being. Awesome. So like all you guys here, like I didn't know that. Like that's kind of some exclusive like knowledge. I don't know. And then yeah. So when I went to University Weiner, I had a hot dog or two. I think there's like the AJ Hogard. Yeah. Hot dog. Is that true? Yeah. Oh yeah. The hot dog. Can you talk about like some of the work you've done with like athletes or like
influencers of all sort, like more than Vintage. I think I saw like even like Salim the Dream. If anyone knows who that is, I think came through, right? Like,
Yeah.
what has that been like kind of seeing that hype or just, I don't know, influencers like take over?
So for me, it's like, I don't know, it's a super surreal experience because we would joke about it. I remember before Salim came, actually Ben was like, dude, Nelk's gonna come here. Like, this was like a month before they came. Like, they announced that Boys of 98 came first. I don't know anyone got who that is, but they came first. And I don't know why he said that, but he said Nelk's gonna come. And I'm like, all right, you're dumb. I'm like, that's just a random thing. Then after the Boys of 98 came, literally 3 weeks later, Salim was here. And I didn't know Salim was gonna come to the store until I got a phone call. I was like, yo, Salim's in town. Like, is he cool to stop by MTV, get some stuff? I'm like, yeah, bring him in. So we literally shut down the store for like 2 hours. They came, they like literally balled out. Like, it was such a surreal experience because he was 20 at the time too. So me and him were both 20 years old talking to each other. He's like literally respecting me more than I'm like respecting him. And it's like, dude, like, it's like, that was like, okay, wow. Like you really, like, it's not, everything's like image, like nothing really, like you can be what you want to be and you can do everything you want to do. Because for me, when I saw that, like especially his team and entourage saying like, wow, this is actually insane that you guys like built this thing, brought it together, like I've never seen anything like it. That just like really fueled me and kept that going too. Especially with the athletes too, it's really cool getting to meet those guys on like a personal level and just getting to know them and seeing them, especially on TV, and like knowing who they are as a person. Like that really like makes me happy, and just see like how like things really operate in the real world too.
Yeah, because you've had like, I don't even know, like the football team, basketball team, and like, did that happen kind of like randomly? Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? Like, how did that go about?
In terms of what?
Like, did they just want to come in and like say what's up and then end up promoting it that way?
Yeah, so honestly, all of the MTV like promotion, it's all super natural. Like, we're just super friendly with them. They love us. Like, they always just stop in and saying what's up, grabbing some stuff if they want it. Like, that's our biggest thing. Like, for us, like, we just love getting to know people in the area. Like, for them, it's like, especially for athletes, they love clothes and sneakers and stuff. Like, if there wasn't a place here for that, they couldn't go get it, So, especially like being able to hit that niche of the market, I think really helped us in just drawing that crowd in as well.
Awesome. And then going back to University of Weiner, I guess, and like kind of about you, like what is your plan for the future if you're comfortable sharing? I guess like that could really be anything.
For University of Weiner?
University of Weiner, or like for yourself, just anything towards this future that you're looking forward to?
So me and my buddy, like we're really dead set on opening up another University of Weiner as soon as possible. We really think hitting like actual franchise college town market would be very successful for both of us, especially just seeing after MTV and just being able to compare how the companies both have started off and just being able to see the potential of it. Like, I'm really ready to put my full heart devotion into it, just knowing myself and like what we actually can do and like popping them up. I really think this could be like another really big chain, honestly.
So like when we talk about like scaling a company or just like growing in general, like leadership's a huge part of that, growing a team. How do you be an effective leader and like delegate, and like how does that go for you? Because everyone has like different leadership styles, you could say.
For me, my biggest thing is when I have team meetings, and especially even when I'm hiring people too, my biggest thing is you tell me what you're good at. You're gonna do what you're good at. Like I don't tell people what to do. Like you give me what you're good at, what you're passionate about. You know our brand, you know what we're about. Come with us, like, bring ideas. So we all sit, brainstorm, and make everything come together. Like a lot of it, honestly, it's not me at all. Like everything you see, like it's probably a group of 3 people really hanging out. Like we have people doing graphics, social media, just branding itself, just like really taking their talents and just like figuring out different ideas for that, and then sharing it along with like different group chats and like passing the message along. Because for MTV alone, like that's so much behind the scenes work for that too, just keeping up with the Instagram and the socials and all the inventory as well. So it's really like, it's a lot. Like you have to trust people with what they're doing and how to do it as well. And that's my biggest thing. I trust everyone that's working for me too. Like they're absolutely animals at their job,
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you say anything to your past self, like looking back? That could be like, I don't even know, like middle school. That could be 18 months ago before you started, when you had the idea, when they had the dream.
Look, what I would say to myself now is like, thank God you were that dumb. Honestly, thank God you were that dumb, because I don't think I'd have the will to do it again like that. But I was just so ready. Like I was so ready to grow up, and I always see these quotes now. It's like, the key to getting ahead is just getting started, and I think that's so true. Just getting started. Like, I really think that was just the biggest thing.
Awesome. So get started. On that note, what advice would you give like other students? Like some people in this room may have their own business already. Some people are like entrepreneurship interested, and like various different levels in between that. What would you say to someone who wants to start their own business, be an entrepreneur of any sort?
Just make sure you're ready for what you want to do, and you have to love it. Like, you really have to love the idea that you're bringing into life. Like, you have to have the energy for it too. Because it's draining. Like, you have to be ready for the bad days. You have to be ready for the good days. You have to be ready to know what to do as well. But my biggest key of advice would just be, if you really feel that energy is like a flaming burn inside of you, that's it. Like, you will do it if you do it right. Just go after it, for sure.
And then maybe for the student who doesn't really know if they want to start a business and just like, I don't know, advice to someone in their young 20s, because you talk about you've lived through like a bunch of different phases of your life with this business, or businesses now. Just a life advice maybe.
If you're not ready, if you know you're not ready, you're not ready. For me, like, I was actually just so fed up, and just like, I really just wanted to get started. Like, I just was so ready to do it. My biggest key of advice now would be, looking back at myself, just be a lot more smarter. Don't think you're as smart as anyone else. Open your ears a lot more. Listen to everyone. Listen to everyone's ideas, listen to everyone's opinions, listen to everyone's criticism. Because at the end of the day, you can take and feed from every single thing. Like, you really shouldn't be, one thing is especially, you can't do it all by yourself either. It's the biggest thing I learned. You will never be able to do anything by yourself. Like, everything works when you have a team of great people around you as well.
You need a team. That's awesome. Okay, can we give it up for Louis real quick? We have some time for